That debate in respect of the special needs assistance and the funding for that, and in particular those in the autism spectrum, and how the department is handling that within the primary school network presently, the funding and the grants available for ASDs. Is it meeting the demand that has been submitted to the department? And just also, Sean, in terms of then the follow-on to secondary level, to post-primary, and the demands on parents in terms of finding an appropriate place within the post-primary network, how the department is facing that challenge.
Yeah, okay. Maybe just an overall comment about special education first. We now are spending 1.7 billion in 2017 on special education. In 2007, we were spending about 800 million. There has been a huge commitment from the state under various governments to enhancing expenditure to meet the needs of children with those with special education needs, and we are always seeking to try and make it as effective as possible with our SNA review, with our new model, with the various arrangements we have to support school transport. But balancing back what we were talking about higher education earlier, there has been a huge amount of investment in special education to try and meet the particular needs and to try and be as helpful as we can to this group. And I think we have to acknowledge that in all of the discussion we're having. And the issue also for us is about the effectiveness of the expenditure. Coming back to the specific issue about ASDs, that is obviously we work with the National Council for Special Education on ASD units, and they try and advise and plan on where there's a need for ASD units to go. Typically on new post-primary schools, new builds, we put in ASD units as we're doing them, and typically we negotiate, the NCSE and ourselves negotiate with primary schools about the demand and with post-primary schools. There is always a difficulty, particularly at different times of the year when there's an uncertainty about where demands arise. I'm aware, obviously, of different cases or groups of cases where there are challenges. This has been debated at the Oireachtas Committee on Education and has been debated in the context of the admissions bill, and indeed myself and Mr Tatton have discussed it with the Minister in terms of considering. So we're looking through the issues around ASD units and the demand at second level to try and to get an evidential basis for the demand and to see if the demand is being met. We believe that the system is responding, but we need to double check that, having regard, as Deputy Connolly said, to information that's coming. So we have to be responsive. We are hearing that there aren't sufficient places in certain areas, and we are looking at that, and we're looking at how we can meet that demand.
And can I just ask you, because I mean, look, we could all give anecdotal examples of how it's not within our own constituency, but can you just maybe just elaborate very briefly just on some of the conceptual ideas that you're working with, because it would really maybe put at ease a lot of the concerns that parents have in terms of availing of space within a relative easily accessible geographical spread.
I mean, the overall conceptual idea on special education is to try and have as many kids in mainstream schools as possible, but that's not an absolute, and we have to be careful about that. So we try and have an integration policy, and we try and obviously have the various supports in place as integrated as possible, and we've put a huge amount of effort in partnership with the National Council for Special Education on ensuring that the teacher allocations, that rather than it being a decision made externally to a school, that we give sufficient resources to a school to manage it and to be responsive in a local context. We have a review on SNAs at the moment, and I'm not sure what the outcome of that will be, but we have hugely increased our investment in SNAs. So we want to encourage children to stay in mainstream second level education, and we want to work with schools to put ASD units in place to enable that to be the case. And we are working with all schools to ensure, with the NCSE, to ensure that that can be the case. Yes, it can be difficult in individual cases to find places at different times, and that's one of the reasons why in the admissions bill we have a specific proposal to give the power to the NCSE to place a child with special education needs in a school, and that's an important proposal because we want to get through the difficulty of schools arguing to a certain extent. We don't want to do that. We're also obviously working with TUSLA, which has the responsibilities of the former NEWB in relation to children accessing schools generally.